products that are delivered with the intent to be stored in the warehouse are received and moved to a storage bin. This video allows different variants of inbound processing, such as inbound from supplier, inbound from another storage location, and inbound from another plant. So this video is focused on the first inbound from supplier. So you have master data, organizational data, and other data defined in your system. You have business condition that you have created previously on inbound delivery. So I show you quickly how to create purchase order with direct inbound delivery. Then preliminary steps. Define default value for warehouse clerk. In this step, you define the default warehouse number for warehouse clerk, IWM. So choose icon for the logon user, like this, and I go in my home setting. No. Settings. Choose default value and make the following entry in the section material management and choose warehouse number 1750. So controlling material management and warehouse number 17510. So I just have a look. Okay, 1750. Okay, and I save. Then define default value for warehouse operative. In this step, you define the default warehouse number for warehouse operative. So we stay in material number. So I have a look. Settings. So manage sales and distribution, logistic execution. Okay, good. So next step, assign fixed storage bin to product. So for that, open assign fixed bin. Okay, wait. Okay. Assign fixed. All right. Perhaps I do not. I just have a look if I have the authorization for that. So we try with SCM. I just want to be sure. SCM. Just as sales center. Okay, so when you are in this case, I show you. So I go in the Theory Apps library. Okay, I would like to find the information about assign fixed bid. Okay, so I click on and assign fixed bins for warehouse clerk, and I check in S4HANA public cloud. Okay. I check implementation information. And then I check on configuration and I check if I've got the business rule, this business rule. Okay. I go back and SAP Cloud. I check with the application maintain business role, maintain business role. Okay, and business role ID, I put business role ID, warehouse clerk, IWM. Okay, I select. I go inside and I check in business user and I check if my user is in the list. So I check, search like this. Okay, so very simple in this case. I click on edit. Then I click on add. I put my user. I select and I click on apply. I save. I'm log off, log in. Okay. Save. Okay, authorization activation in progress. Okay. If I try just right now, go, put, but sometimes I really think we need to log off, log, yeah. So like this, sing out. Okay. Okay, and I access again, access. I wait. Okay, and I try assign fixed bin. Okay, loading. I wait. I wait. Waiting. Waiting. Okay, good. Okay, assign fixed bin. So on the maintain fixed storage bin screen, make the following entries: the warehouse and the product that we will use, TJ1, 2. 1, 2. And I click on execute. Okay. Choose edit. To switch to change mode, choose happen row. Create. Okay. Edit. So warehouse 171750. Okay. Disposal 174111710. Okay. Storage bin. Storage bin. Okay. SF01. So storage bin. I use a match code and I check storage bin, this one. No, not this one. Storage type, warehouse, storage type, storage bin. SF. Proxy is not created. SF. Yes, SF01, 03, 03, and 04. 03, 04. Okay. My product. the storage type, the product, and okay, that sounds to be, and I click on save. Yeah, great. Manage packing instruction. We will create packing instruction. In this step, we create a packing instruction. A packing instruction serves a template for the creation of a handling unit. In a packing instruction, you define the material and packaging material to be packed in a handling unit. So for that, I use POP1. POP1. I've got the solution for POP1. Yeah. Create packing instruction master data. Okay, great. To create a new packaging instruction, choose continue or choose enter. If you want to create a packing instruction from a reference packing instruction, choose a reference packing instruction and then enter. So enter. Enter a short field for the description of the packaging instruction. So for me, sometimes for the demonstration, I like to put, for example, if we use a material TG12, yes, like this, and our TG stars are short text from TM palette. Okay. Enter the package material number in the field component like this. PM palette. The item category P of item 10 means packaging materials. The first line is mandatory for every packing instruction because every packing instruction needs at least one packaging material. In the item 20, make the following entries. Item category M for material. So you put the material in packing material. And for example, we can add material to be packed, TG11, and the target quantity, how many material you can put in the on the pallet or on or in. So for example, 10 and minimum rounding. So you can define also what is the minimum. For example, 1 and another one, for example, in M, can put also 12, 1, 1. Okay. So then in the administrative data tab, enter 01 for the check profile. 01, I show you substandard. So simple. 01 is a pre-delivered substandard profile and choose save. Okay, packaging instruction 1 saved successfully. So you can repeat the step to create an alternative packing instruction with the same component, but different packing material and quantity. So if I want, for example, to create a new one only for, or if I want to change it, I've made a mistake, for example, I do edit. So I just have to select one, for example. Menu, edit. Tab 2, 1. I would like to change to keep only, for example, the information. I just have to do that. Delete item. Save. I go back in POP 1. Okay. Sorry. POP 1. Create packaging instruction. Okay. I keep like this 1 and I change. Okay. 12. And I change it. For example, 1, 1. Okay. I change. Then 2. And I save. So right now, create packing instruction determination. In this step, you create packing instruction determination record. This function enables the system to find a packing instruction by specific characteristic. The condition technique is applied for this. You define a packing instruction that refer to a specific characteristic, such as a material and chip to party. So for that, we use the application POF1, POF1. Okay, create determination record from master data. We use 0 high BD. So I use match code and I select 0 IBD for inbound delivery WM. I click on enter. I check for warehouse number, vendor, material, but I check the simple material. So this, the determination of the packing instruction with determination type OYBD. But if you have made a mistake, I do not select the right, so I just have to click on cancel. I click on cancel key, and I select warehouse, vendor, material. So it's very simple again. So on the key combination screen, we have select the combination warehouse, vendor, material. So on the create inbound delivery WM, we warehouse number 1750. So we can create 17. We will use the supplier. So I check in the supplier for by country, by company code, supplier, company. So domestic supplier, check. Still differing. US plant, I checked if we have WM supply. No, not TM. Okay. And that material, AG, we select CG11, and for pricing instruction 1. Sorry. Okay, PG11, PG12, and packing instruction number 2. So supplier number, material, packing instruction, the packing instruction number noted created in the previous section. And if we have an alternative, and we just have to save. So I save, but I can do it for several suppliers. So I save. If I want to use another supplier, like this, and I proceed exactly 1 and 3, 12, 2. Save. Okay. So right now, we need to create a purchase order. So if we used, for example, for this one, I create a purchase order quickly. So manage purchase order. Okay. With material TG1 and TG12. So create that quickly a purchase order. I check quickly if you have the key confirmation with inbound delivery. So I start with my supplier like this. Okay. I check and click on create. materials, TG11. And the US plant, the quantity, for example, 10 pieces. Okay. Storage location. Okay, I've got the information about storage, the warehouse. I order. I create several purchase orders. So if I have, I do not remember, POF 2, I would like to check that which supplier I used, inbound delivery. I click on enter like this. Supplier. So in this case, menu, display, POF, POF3, display. Okay, 0 IBD. Okay, warehouse, like this. It's weird. I would like to display for condition information. So which supplier I used for this one? That for company code 1010. I think I used for this one. I've got just adapt. Okay, no condition records, condition information. Okay, I check for the warehouse. Okay, and I see, okay, you see, packing instruction for today. Okay, I used the supplier, this one. Okay, 101-8880. So, manage purchase order. And I check the for supplier 101-0008. So create. So 101-00088. Okay. Create. I add the materials, TG11. Okay. The quantity, 10 bases, 10 euro. Okay, I check the system, tell me that is okay. Okay, I check the detail, the storage location. And the WM produce, that is a warehouse, WM. Okay. Okay, I click on apply and had two materials. We keep it for the moment. We just make a test with the, okay, and I click on order. Right now, I would like to create inbound delivery. So yeah, the most important if you want to create an inbound delivery, I go in the detail of the item 10 to check that the key confirmation is with inbound delivery. So I check, I go in the detail, supplier confirmation control, and I check that my confirmation key is inbound delivery. I click on apply, I order, and then foreground or background, BL31N, create inbound delivery. I put my purchase order and external ID. Like this. Enter. Okay. I check quickly all the information. Okay. Shipment. And I save. I just have a doubt about the storage used because I used warehouse number. I think 10, 50, yes, because I used 10, 10, just have a doubt. So I will create for the post manage. So EL32M, change in bound delivery. And I will create for another one to manage purchase order. I will create the inbound delivery for the both company. So okay, I create approved automatically. Yeah, and they purchase order date today. Go. I've created for the first one, and I think I need to do for the second one. It's 459. Edit item in the detail exactly per set, and supplier confirmation controlled. I select inbound. I click on apply. I save and order. And the L31N create inbound delivery. I put purchase order. I put the external number that is corresponding to the delivery note of the supplier. Like this, enter. And I save. Okay. Inbound delivery transfer to WMs. So assign or create batch is not our case, but we can have a look to this. Before posting the good receipt, the warehouse clerk can create a batch. Even when most batches are automatic create, it's also sometimes necessary to create batch manually. For that, we use change inbound deliveries. It's not BL32M, it's update change inbound delivery for EIWM. This one, change inbound delivery. So today I check. Okay, that is mine, and I go inside. The change inbound delivery screen appears. On the change inbound delivery screen, choose adapt filter. You adapt your filter, you adapt, and a dialog box appears. You make all the things to find your change inbound delivery. So go inside and you click on edit. Okay. In case you want to create a new batch, proceed with step, create batch. In case you want to assign an existing batch, proceed with the step, assign existing batch. So if I go there, item, I do not see anything about batch numbers. That means when there is nothing in the batch column, that means nothing to do. Okay. So again, change stock type. In case the delivered item are poor quality, the warehouse clerk can change the stock type to Q or B, Q for quality or B stock. Then the items are sent to the clarification zone. So for that, in the change inbound delivery, okay, change inbound delivery screen, etc., etc. So we are in the inbound delivery. We click on edit, and you have stock type column. Stock type column. You use the match code, and you see B block in warehouse, and queue for quality inspection warehouse. So you can do it like this. That also, you have this information, okay? We can also do the same thing for the serial number. Always the same things, but in our case, I don't have any batch number or serial number. So create handling unit. So variant one with Fiori app automatic packing. So for that, we still are in a change inbound delivery. Again, the same as a filter, and you find you are in a edit and choose like this. So you have unpack item. So in this case, you see assign serial number range, create mixed hash, create task automatically. Total item. Okay. You have right now pack automatically. So on the change inbound delivery screen, choose pack automatically. To pack all unpacked item automatically based on the packing instruction. You see right now, number of HU. So if I click on, I will display the information that is packaging material PM palette automatically with the handling unit. Okay? Nothing to do. So, okay. Was number, it is good. I go back. My inbound delivery is this one. So, it's good. So, we have pack material PM palette. So, we can use also App Theory packing at the work center, but it's not in our case the most important. So we can use also radio frequency, but right now we do the pass good receipt. We have packed the materials, we can adjust, we can change, we can add. In this app, you have to understand right now, you can create the batch number, assign the serial number, change the stock type, and then post good receipt. So we continue with this application, change inbound delivery. On the change inbound delivery screen, so I go inside, you see you have good receipt. So you just have to click on choose good receipt. So again, we have created a purchase order. We have an inbound delivery. We save. Automatically, the system is sent to the WM decentralized system. And in this case, you cannot use at any time the application change inbound delivery because change inbound delivery is equivalent to VL32M. So in SAP, you cannot change anything when the inbound delivery is sent to WM. So you need to use change inbound deliveries. That means IWM. So I click on good receipt. The following system message appears, good receipt posted. Good. When the button is gray, that means everything is good. So right now, create put away warehouse task. The good receipt is being posted. SAP S/4HANA is being updated accordingly. So we stay always in the change inbound deliveries, application F1706. So I recalled recent activities, change inbound deliveries. I click on go. Okay. I go inside. On the change inbound delivery screen, choose your delivery item and choose create task. I select, you have create task manually, or you have for all create task. The following system message appears, task created. See right now, warehouse task. So my task is created. So in the delivery item section, choose warehouse task. The warehouse task created is displayed. Okay, the warehouse task is open. So we have source bin JR for good receipt area. That's exactly the same things when you try to compare with the application in the SAP3, LT, etc. So you have right now a warehouse task. So right now, the next step, you don't have to do a reverse good receipt, anything, but I can do. You can cancel put away warehouse task, you can reverse good, all these things. Right now, we need to confirm warehouse task. For that, always we go back in the change inbound deliveries, but we can stay there, process warehouse task. But if we are there, we just have to, we have our warehouse task number. I go inside, prefer to show you all the detail on the warehouse screen in the movement data section. Movement data section. That is the most important there. Choose. So I check if I've got some no serial number. It's not the case. So you have the destination bin. You have the destination handling unit. So for example, if I want to change the destination warehouse bin, so you have this all the empty bin for storage tape A001 in warehouse number 1750. So if I have a look in the storage two, okay, stem check automatically the warehouse bin empty. So mark the checkbox of the selecting warehouse task and choose confirm. So everything sounds to be good, no exception. Resource, remove, world and link. I've got my information about stock data and I confirm warehouse task. Automatically, my warehouse task status confirmed and the source bin GR area. So the warehouse clerk take the material TG 11, 110 paces, box everything from the source bin, GR area to the destination bin. So it's this simple, just like an internal transfer. So we can check in the clarification done, but we are not in the clarification done, but it's a good to show you the warehouse monitor in the public cloud. So I show you warehouse monitor. Stock and bin. For example, storage bin, physical stock. and I check for the storage type is S001 for storage. And I check for my product TG11. I click on the execute. And right now, I display the information about my ending unit that I put inside. And today, that is good. I double click on the line. If I click on node serial number, change attribute. So I display the information. So with the warehouse management monitor, you display all the information that you want to display. That is conclude. I checked if I've got something else to show you, but I completely realize the process flow. I know clarification. I will see you later the clarification. So it's good. Thank you.